Ready?
Mics are going on.
Good evening, members of council. Ladies and gentlemen, I see that we have quorum, and I call this regular meeting for the Town of Pelham Council for Monday, January 19th, 2015 to order. We will begin with an invocation led by Councillor Junkin, followed by the singing of the national anthem led by Councillor Papp. I would ask all who are able to rise.
Lord, we give thanks for the town of Pelham as we meet to deliberate the matters of business on behalf of all people. Direct the members of Pelham Council through the paths of many decisions placed before them. May each council member show strength, wisdom, courage, and honor as they strive for goodwill in all their considerations. Amen.
Amen.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land, glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, councillors. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been moved by Councillor Junkin, seconded by Councillor Durley, that the agenda for the January 19th, 2015 regular meeting of council be adopted. Are there any changes to the agenda? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest. That is, any conflicts of interest. Do any members have any conflicts that they need to disclose? I see none being signaled, and can that be put into the minutes, please? Next, we move to presentations and/or delegations. The first is by Kate Hall here regarding the Walk Friendly Award. Thank you very much for joining us, Kate.
Thank you very much for having me.
And you're coming from a distance, so thanks especially for that.
No worries. It's great to be here, and thanks so much for the warm welcome from your colleagues and such who've been working so hard to create walk-friendly communities along with you, all of council. So I'm going to begin by just talking a little bit about walking and why it's so important that we create walk-friendly communities before I get to the award. So walking is the most natural form of transportation. We all do it. We were built to walk. Walkers are the indicator species of a vibrant community. So when you see walkers out in your community, you know that you have a vibrant place that people feel comfortable walking in. At Green Communities Canada, we like to say that driving, cycling, and public transit are just the middle leg of your walking journey every day. So we all walk every day. First and foremost, we are walkers. And walking is the fundamental mode of any integrated mobility solution as it relates to creating healthy, safe, and equitable communities. So physical activity levels, we know, are declining across all age groups, resulting in increased risk of numerous chronic diseases. However, research shows that people living in walk-friendly communities have lower risks for chronic disease, lower body weights, and suggesting that neighborhoods and communities that are designed to support walking, we can lower the risks of these chronic diseases. Walk-friendly communities are also safer for every mode of travel on our streets. The pedestrian death review that was issued in 2012 by the Ontario Chief Coroner's Office found that 24% of fatalities occurred in rural areas, and that the ratio of fatalities to injuries in rural areas is much higher than in urban areas because we tend to have higher speeds on some of our roads. So some of our municipal roads and regional roads may have an 80-kilometer speed limit, for example. So rural highways accounted for the highest number of pedestrian fatalities outside of urban arterials. However, walk-friendly neighborhoods are associated with fewer traffic accidents. There's also a strong equity and accessibility argument to be made for walking and creating walkable communities. That everyone, regardless of age, income, and ability, has the right to safe mobility options that enable them to access their everyday needs. Almost 30% of Ontarians don't have a driver's license. They don't drive. So if we're planning primarily for moving vehicles and not moving people, then we miss out on planning for 30% of our populations to get around in their communities. Walk-friendly communities are also more accessible. So according to Statistics Canada in 2006, 13.5% of Ontarians have a disability. And it's estimated by 2036, 1 in 5 individuals will have some form of a disability. So the town of Pelham is working to create a culture of walking by making a great effort to include all stakeholders and the community members in planning for active transportation. The town demonstrates its commitment to walking through its endorsement of the International Charter for Walking and establishment of the Pelham Active Transportation Committee of Council that's been very, very active and very much engaged in this application for walk-friendly designation. And in 2000, so that came about in 2008 as an official committee of council. And the Pelham Active Transportation Committee is a key resource and driver of the walk-friendly work that you're doing here, with good representation from municipal staff, as well as 2 youth members and others in the community as well. The strategic plan for Pelham includes really strong language and objectives to support walking and walkability. You have an outstanding policy to clear sidewalks in the wintertime, and that is quite a barrier for a lot of people to getting out in the winter and walking. So that's fabulous. We think that is that's really great, and that's a model for other communities to follow. And there are about 30 days per year where roads are closed to vehicular traffic for street festivals, parades, the Pelham Farmers Market, and more. Pelham should be commended for its successful Open Streets event, the Pelham Summerfest, a 4-day event that attracts tens of thousands of visitors annually. There's also an impressive number of campaigns to promote walking led by various community partners, including public health, such as Sneak It In Week, Slow Down Through Town, and Get Active for Life. In 2014, the town celebrated its 10th annual Mayor's Walk. So great initiative from the municipality. So it's my pleasure to be here today to present a bronze walk-friendly community designation to the town of Pelham and its and council and staff and community volunteers. And we look forward to working with you in the future and applaud the progress that you've made to date to becoming a walk-friendly community. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hall. We appreciate that.
And I'd love to present these.
Okay. I would ask the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Kersey, to join me in receiving that, along with some members of the Active Transportation Committee.
Have a framed certificate for you to display prominently somewhere in your municipal office, and also a sign that we hope that you will display prominently in your community to promote the community as walk-friendly.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. Members, let's do a photo here. Ms. Hall indicated that she wanted to do a photo of the paper, and I think councillors, they could gather around.
Picture day at school today, isn't it? You go up back there. There we go. Should wear a bow tie today.
Yeah.
Plaid one. Yeah.
Okay, put your body that way and your head this way.
You learn fast, John.
I think so.
You gotta push that button, Wayne. That's it.
Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much for your work. We really appreciate it. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. We'll make sure we get this up. Don't start crying. And before you head out, I do want to just echo comments about. I do want to thank, first of all, the Active Transportation Committee for pushing this initiative and your your hard work and dedication to ensuring that Pelham is a very walkable community. I want to also thank on behalf of council staff that were involved in this and continue to promote walkability in our community. So thank you very much, the staff that are here, Ms. Van Ravensway, Ms. Cook, Mr. Mantle, even making sure that we can have those sidewalks and include them in our plan. So thank you very much for that. Also, really the community coming forward and encouraging council. I would say this, I mean, we receive a lot of compliments on how walkable the community is, and that helps encourage us to ensure that it becomes more and more walkable. And finally, to Ms. Hall for traveling the distance and presenting this to us. It is a real honor. The award, I believe we're the only ones in Niagara region that have this award, and it's coveted across the province. So it means a lot to us, and we will very proudly present this or display that as you come into the community, and I hope we can get some others and put it at different entrances to the community. Council, I've actually talked to the CAO, and this is part of celebrating our successes, that we should celebrate these things a little bit more and promote them. So Pelham is a walk-friendly community, a bike-friendly community, maybe include some of these things on our letterhead or whatever it is, certainly the signs as you come into town. So on behalf of council, thank you very much, Ms. Hall, for coming, and all that were involved in this. Thanks again. And now we have another award that really some of our staff have won. These are the Life-Saving Shorts Video Submission. So are all three of you coming up? Ms. Goosen, Mr. Wallace, and Ms. Christian? So even though it's cold out and there's no water in the pool, you're thinking about life-saving and lifeguarding and the pool. So thank you for coming in this evening.
You're welcome. So this past summer we made this video. Every year for the past 4 years we've been making a video for the Life Saving Society because they try to promote various themes throughout the year. So our video represents swim with a buddy. There's other ones like check the ice, make sure to wear life jackets when on a boat, things like that. So we picked this theme because we thought it was a great message, and we always use it at the pool, especially with our camp swims and things like that. So by making this video, we were hoping that we can show it to the people in our area as well as all over the Niagara region. And because we won, it's also going to be on the Life Saving Society website, which is great. So lots of different municipalities in Canada can even look at it. Last year we got an honorable mention, and other years we've gotten second place and third place. So we're really happy that we actually won this year.
That's great. That's great. And you're going to play it for us, right?
Yes, we are.
All right, let's see it.
Canada, drowning is the #1 cause of unintentional death among children 1 to 4 years of age.
In Canada, drowning is the second leading cause of preventable death for children under 10 years.
The World Health Organization reports drowning is the 3rd leading cause of unintentional death in children and youth.
Lakes and rivers are the setting that account for more than half the drownings among 5 to 12-year-olds. Playing in the water and swimming are what 2/3 are doing when they drown.
Globally, an estimated 1 million people drown.
1/4 of victims ages 5 to 12 are non-swimmers. And although children this age often playing with friends, 1/4 of victims are alone, and another 1/4 are with minors with no adult present. Most teenage drownings happen at lakes and rivers, less so at home pools. 1/2 of fatal incidents occur while swimming, but other aquatic activities enter the mix as well, such as jumping, diving, swimming, boating, and partying.
Is that you, Mr. Wallace, in the background, singing? Oh, is that an original?
Yeah, we got shut down for the music the previous year. We got muted on YouTube, so I just threw in one of my tunes because to give permission to myself.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for including it in the video. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. I do have some certificates for you and a little gift, and maybe Councillor Kersey, you can help me again.
Taylor?
Thank you.
Love the music.
Thank
That's
you.
a little gift card for you guys.
So have a little pizza
That's
party.
Thank you very much.
Mayor and I want to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Forget the rest of them.
They can stay here, we're coming.
But thank you so much. It's great, and perhaps we can post a link to that on our website, and maybe the Voice can promote it as well as something that people start hoping for the Spring Club. But it's wonderful. Thank you very
Great
much.
job. Thanks for representing our community so well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. His friend Ravensway says it's already on our website rather proudly, so thank you very much. We'll make sure we link that up, so thank you. Thanks again. Now we'll move to minutes. It's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey. The following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. Minutes of the special meeting of December 10th, 2014, regular meeting of council December 15th, 2014, special meeting of council of January 5th, regular meeting of council of January 12th. Any errors or omissions in those minutes?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the special meeting of council on Wednesday, December the 10th indicates that I was present at that meeting, and I do not believe I was.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk will fix that. Thank you. Any other errors, omissions? There being none, I call the question on those minutes as corrected. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next item is consent agenda items to be considered in block. Do councillors have any items that they wish to lift for separate consideration? I don't see any, so it has been moved by Councillor Kersey, seconded by Councillor Junkin, that the following consent agenda items be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved as applicable. The recommendations from our P&P meeting of December 15th, 2014, and the recommendations of the Committee of the Whole meeting of January 12th, 2015. The minutes of the Policy and Priorities Committee of December 15th, and the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of January 12th. Action correspondence of a routine nature. There is one. It's from Lipa Park Community Festivals and Special Occasion Permits, and the recommendation is that the correspondence dated January 5th from Lipa Park regarding the proposal of the 2015 community events and special occasions permits be received, and the festivals outlined therein be and are hereby designated as community events of municipal significance, and that the clerk be directed to so advise Lipa Park. We look forward to those 4 events through the year. We have information correspondence items. There are 4 items. Ministry of Energy, Local Energy Planning Initiatives, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, greetings to new council about all of the activities that Municipal Affairs and Housing does. The third is from the Niagara Workforce Planning Board, and it's a survey request. And the fourth is from the Regional Municipality of Niagara about the T. Roy Adams Humanitarian Award nomination request. Then we have some committee minutes of information, and that is the Mayor's Youth Advisory meeting minutes of December 16th, 2014, which I'll actually touch on later in my Mayor's report. Questions, comments on any of those items? Councillor Papp.
Just under the item, Mr. Mayor, through the Niagara Workforce Planning Board request, are we going to complete that survey? Or do we normally do that?
Mr. CAO?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor, yes, and we will be
Okay, thank you.
participating.
Thank you. Thank you. Others? Okay, ready for the calling the question? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. The next item is presentation and reports. And I believe I'm looking for my report. Thank you. I have a few items that I'd just like to highlight and touch on. Thanks very much for having the privilege to do so. The first is I did have the pleasure of meeting with Dr. Suzanne Johnstone. She's the president of the NHS. Council will recall that she was appointed in September of 2014, and she's the president separate from the CEO position, which is Dr. Kevin Smith, and still retain that title. Talking about the design process of the potential new hospital for Niagara, and I informed her about the activities that we're planning in East Fawn Hill and the significant development there. She welcomed actually a Pelham representative to be involved as an active part of their community care working group and the definition of health wellness working group. And so Mr. Ottaway has accepted that and I think has attended 2 or 3 meetings already of that working group. So it was a very, very good meeting, and that means that Pelham is quite involved in that, and we're very pleased on that. And we're thankful to President Johnston for that. We did have the meeting of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, both in December and January. Congratulations to the new members and the executive. The Prime Minister is, as in the report, Alyssa Girardi, but the Deputy Prime Minister is Jared Nahr. The Secretary is Jordana Scaldero. Communications is Connor Moffat. And Recruitment is Marisa Batista. The youth are focusing on some special events this year, and they want to support the outdoor movie night along with, and align it with Summerfest. They found that worked better. I'm looking at Councillor Kersey because you've been certainly spearheading that. They thought it worked very, very well last year, but not in August, but in July. So they want to focus on that, and a talent night as well, and some other events. But one of the big things that they want to work on for the longer term are certainly work with the regarding the multifaceted community center, and they're hoping to host a youth forum this year. They have provided some input on the design of the community center, what they want in it, but Councillor Papp, I think the forum is going to be similar to the seniors forum.
Yep.
And the youth have done a forum. I know Councillor Durley's been there and other members of council have been there in previous years. So they do want to have another forum to talk about that and get a broad-based approach and feedback. And so they're hoping to link up with the Architectural Design Committee schedule and make sure that their input is well involved. So we look forward to that, and I'll keep you informed on when that forum is, and council, if they're available, can stop in and greet youth and talk to them as well. So that was the 13th of January. On the 14th, the CAO, myself, and Stephen Kaiser, representing the Allen Group and the Fawn Hill Medical Center, met with Donna Cripps, who's the CEO of the Hamilton, Niagara, Haldeman, Brant, Lynn Local Health Integration Network. And we've done this, many people, we've met with her before. Others continue to say, keep her updated. So we certainly updated the Lynn on all of the plans for the Fawn Hill Medical Center and the other East Fawn Hill developments. I thought we received a very, very positive reception. Quite impressed with both the development and the way in which the entire East Fawn Hill area is coming together with the plans. So it's not just as we heard with the Walk Friendly, it's not just a facility, it's also the way in which the community is designed that they're impressed with. The next item is, I'll just briefly touch on it, Big Brothers Big Sisters. Councillor Papp was there, and he is the chair of Big Brothers Big Sister, but Councillor King was there as well, and some other members of staff. So congratulations to you on your 3rd place tie victory there, or what?
Oh, buddy.
And we were fourth. I'm sure we were fourth. But
And Ms.
congratulations!
Pupo was there?
It was a great event. Ms. Pupo was there,
Part of our team.
and so it was a great event. And perhaps I think Councillor King suggested
We were
that
actually
that perhaps we can have an official
gonna blame it on
table, or two or more next year.
Next year,
So,
oh yeah,
so
we
maybe
gotta
that's
fill it.
something we can do. It was a great event. So congratulations. That is my report. Unless there's any questions, I do have a motion by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor King. The council received my report of January 19th for information. Councillor Papp, you had a question?
I'm just curious, what is the Marine Chamber of Commerce?
The Marine Chamber of Commerce is quite an old chamber. It's there to promote marine industry in Niagara. I was sort of attending that, wearing my Niagara hat, and trying to make some contacts because the Seaway contract for operations is coming up in
Yeah.
2018.
That's right.
So it's something we need to keep our eyes on at the region, both the operation and the land usage. So there was a few of us there to make contacts and just start that process. And they have a conference associated with that, and this was the lunch.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just quickly, when you met with the Lynn, what's the status? Are they still acknowledging or that we be in the lineup or not for the urgent care center?
Thank you, and maybe the CAO can add if I don't get all the information. They reiterated that essentially it's been handed off now to the NHS. And so the NHS is involved in the design portion. I believe the first phase of that, well, and let me answer this also. She was quite clear. We did have the discussion, and Mr. Kaiser was asking the question of Ms. Cripps. He was trying to get his head around it, and she said, well, it's really, the ball's in their court, but we think of it holistically, and they're at the table. And I think she hadn't been able to be at some of the meetings, but was certainly wanting to attend. It's similar to what we might do locally. Somebody just doesn't do it and we're not involved, but rather that they are involved, but it's going to be the recommendation from the NHS working group to the LIN, but they are involved in the process.
So, Mr. Mayor, I don't want to be, is this part of their planning process for the new hospital?
It's part of the $26.2 million planning grant.
Okay.
And the way that's been established, and Dr. Johnston explained this to me as well, they actually have thresholds or milestones that they have to meet.
Right.
So the first one is in March, and I think it's with clinical services, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Then the next one is in August, so it's very quick in terms of what's the next one? Where they're cited, is that right?
Yeah, I believe so, Mr. Mayor.
And then after that, once they sort of get that general overview and approved, then the planning grant, the next phase is opened up. So it's similar to what development might do or whatever. You go to the bank, you say, we build this much, okay, now you get the next draw. So then after August, they get the next draw of money to do the more detailed dive. So the timing is now for the design of this facility, and maybe Mr. CA, you want to add to that process and what they're doing?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The working groups, the consultation groups that they've established, there's 4 of them. I'm participating in the patient experience group. The people in that group are by and large employees of NHS. KPMG is doing the facilitation of that, and they're doing the visioning around what a hospital would look like from a number of different points of view. So my point of view would be as that of a patient. What would I, as a patient, see as the vision for a hospital? And the way that they explained the visioning was, assuming that you're winning the Pan Am Games, what would it take for you to win the Olympics? So they're looking ahead and trying to figure out what exactly the hospital would look like, what's the vision for it, etc. Those working groups will then be reporting to, or those vision groups rather, will be reporting to the working group, which I understand is made up of the senior management of the NHS, and then that will eventually make its way up to the board. The board will then as I understand, make a recommendation to the LIN, and the LIN will be, as I understand, the final decision maker, although NHS is more or less in the driver's seat around the planning exercise and the visioning exercise, etc.
So to answer your question, your specific question, are we still in line, I think you said, for the UCC? The UCC may not be what we term as what we have in mind as a UCC. It might be a newer version. But I would suggest that having Mr. Ottaway being involved in the process, they're quite keen on us being involved and looking for our feedback. And I don't know if you can answer the councillor any further on that.
I think, Mr. Mayor, there's been a lot of discussion both at the working group, but also I think within the NHS with regards to what a UCC is, and you're quite right when you say UCC is perhaps an antiquated service, if you will. There was a lot of discussion in the working group, for example, about community-based healthcare and perhaps creating centers of excellence or community-based healthcare and excellence for one or two specific procedures or issues, if you will. So that for a patient in the Niagara region who's got a cardiac issue, rather than having to drive around to 3 different sites for treatment, they would cite the cardiac treatment in one central location so that it was a one-stop shop. And one gets the feeling that that's the future of healthcare moving ahead, and really the effort to try and keep as many people away from the hospital as possible, as opposed to the current thinking of, if you can't see your family doc, the only other alternative is to go to Emerge, and that's trying to reverse that thinking.
Just to add to that, I think both Dr. Johnston and Ms. Cripps welcomed our involvement, and because of what we're doing and what we're planning, they see it as, I hate to say this, but leading edge. It's not a cliche. It's part of where they're going, where the ministry's going, where all the thinking's going. So they're embracing our involvement, which I think is great news, and see us as a potential for this type of center.
Sure. Well, I am somewhat familiar with how that all operates. I'm looking at it more on the idea that when we presented to the minister a couple of years ago, that topic remains red hot because of what are the mutual benefits for us. And we can talk about and keep it active, and I'm glad Mr. Ottaway's there, because as our population at some given point, we're going to have the highest number of seniors, we're going to have multiplicity of both health and wealth issues, and what can we build down there besides what we're looking at and add on. And I'd like to see us locked in that somehow we become part of that. On a positive note, I mean, our friends in Welland are struggling on another side of keeping maintaining their services there. We, if anything, could then build on what sort of, not just campus, but menu and specialization could take place here in this area. And I think right off the bat, we've done a little bit of that by having Wellspring established here. You know, so there's all kinds of possibilities. So I'm glad to hear this, and I'm glad that we're part of that process as we move along, because, you know, there could be tremendous benefit for our residents here locally.
And I
Glad
think
to hear that.
Ms. Cripps, she said, you're building like a medical campus. So using the language, we didn't say that. She said it based on what we're doing. So
Good.
I think
That's what
it
you
was,
want to
it
hear.
was a great meeting, and we'll continue to meet
Good.
with them and keep them informed.
Good.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors on that point, or any other point of my report? Okay, thank you. So again, we'll keep you informed on that, and I'm very pleased that Mr. Ottaway accepted to be involved in that. Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you for being involved. The next item has been moved by Councillor King, second by Councillor Durley. That council received the report Request for Council Direction, Town of Pelham Site Plan Manual, and the recommendations contained therein be approved as follows. The council support in principle the creation of a townwide site plan manual that includes, among other things, site plan design standards, light emission standards, and crime prevention through environmental design requirements, called SEPTED, and thereby direct planning staff to prepare said manual with an accompanying recommendation report and present it to the Committee of the Whole for consideration at the earliest possible date, and further that, as part of the general preparation of the above noted manual, planning staff be directed to seek the public, agency, and development community input on this matter. Discussion. Councillor Papp?
Well, I'm very pleased to see this in particular. I just picking on a couple of things because tomorrow we're going to be sitting and talking about economic development. And I see one of our goals is prosperity, and I see that the region's embracing that. And it's very important that the general public or anybody interested, whether private citizens, that we will then work towards facilitating a very expedient type and timely process, because that's what we heard. I just saw an example, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned about a building permit. That stuff goes out in the general field, and people like that because they hear there's a quick turnaround, but it's comprehensive and it doesn't drag it out. So I'm looking forward for this. This is right on the mark.
Thank you very much, and I think it's part of staff reacting to council's direction, and we appreciate it, regarding cutting the red tape and rolling out the red carpet. And I think Mr. Glover, he comes from an area that has these manuals before. Is that correct, Mr. Glover? Maybe you can just fill us in on some of the history with this in other communities.
That's correct. In 3 other municipalities, I've worked on creating a site plan process and different manuals to give the development community a basis that they can all work from, an equal playing field, and they know what's expected of them before they even come into the town to have a pre-consultation meeting, etc. Given this information, they come almost with a complete application, and we can process it without major revisions. So it achieves everything Councillor Papp was saying in terms of expediency. It reduces costs for developers, and it gets the public involved at this level of the manual, so that they don't have to be involved later because their expectations have been met.
Good, thank you. And your report says it's urgent, and you say at the earliest time possible. What's your thinking in terms of timing for this, Mr. Glover?
Since I started here a number of months ago, approximately a year ago, I've been looking at different ways to improve the system through the building process, through planning process, and site plan. And now we're looking at, I've developed a cachet, I guess, of best practices, and I hope to, with your direction, very quickly do a draft manual, which I can present to the public, the development community, and the agencies to have feedback and comment on. From there, I'll edit and revise it, and then bring it to council for consideration.
Okay.
I believe I can accomplish this in a few months anyways.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Papp?
What I like about this, through you, Mr. Mayor, is this is something that both Mr. Ottaway and I heard a couple of years ago at a seminar about what Hamilton did. It's essentially you become the broker that I know a lot of my colleagues that are in the development field look towards. Where can they come in? They can pre-prepare, come in, and knowingly that you can guide them and put them through the process within, how can I say, that overall package. And I'm so pleased to see this, because this was one of the things we were trying to people not be chasing around the building looking to get things done or who's going to prove what, and go through one source. And you say, okay, and I'm the developer, and say, Mr. Papp, you got to do this, 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 and this, and thank you, you've completed that. That's perfect. And the business community, I'm telling you, is going to embrace this big time. Have done it already unofficially. But I think the general public and those that are interested as we move along the economic development stream, they're going to be looking and say, okay, that's great, we want to invest, particularly down here, but tell us how long it's going to take. We're not going to wait here for years. You know, we want to get going. So I look forward to it, and I hope if you, by midterm, you figure by mid-year, would that be safe to say before summer?
Mayor, I hope to have the draft manual, given permission, I hope to have the draft manual prepared for agency review within a couple of weeks, because I have everything compiled. From there, I hope to get comments back within 2 to 3 weeks from the agencies, because it is, I'm envisioning this could be quite a thick document, around 30 to 50 pages, I don't know yet. And from, once I have that and do my edits, back to council for a recommendation. So it could be back to you as early as a month and a half, say, as late as 2.5 months. So it depends on how we get in with feedback.
Good.
And anything we can do to help you along those lines, because the word is on the street, I can tell you, some of the stuff that Mr. Mayor, you're talking about, they like what we're doing, and they like not only the timeliness, how can I say, it's focused. It's not people scrambling around that they can get, and they're given the right information on what they need to do to correct, whether it's a small planning issue or getting into larger developments. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? I think this will also, maybe Mr. Glover, you fill council in on this, but just quickly, this will actually, currently council has the authority for site plan approval. What you're hoping to achieve out of this is to delegate that authority to staff to follow the manual. That's the ultimate. And instead of, I would say, council, instead of us looking at each one and saying, does it meet what we have in our heads? Rather, we already have what we want in our heads on paper, and that's how it'll be judged. Does that, you probably come up with a better way of saying it, Mr. Glover?
I think the end goal may be that. We haven't concluded that premise yet. What I want to do is provide you with a document, a set of rules, say that everybody must be judged by, so they're equally and unbiasedly judged. From that, council may decide that that's enough confidence you have to vest the decision-making in my position, the Director of Planning, and thereby eliminate that other step of process, that red tape that people have to go through. So that may be the result, but I want you to be, as council, to be comfortable with this manual before we go to that stage.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Ready for the question? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Glover. And another one from Planning and Development. It's been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor King, that council receive this report regarding the East Fonthill Urban Design Guidelines, and further the council direct planning staff to incorporate the East Fonthill Urban Design Guidelines with the previously directed East Fonthill Mixed Use Center Urban Design Guidelines, Section 3, as the basis for an ongoing planning and design of the East Fonthill Secondary Plan area, including those lands that are owned by the town. And further, that council direct planning staff to develop an official plan amendment and hold the required statutory public meeting to solicit feedback on the incorporation of the East Fonthill Urban Design Guidelines into the town's official plan, thereby making the policies statutory requirements under the Planning Act. Comments, questions for Councillor Kersey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased to see this come forward. Information and clarity cuts through the red tape, and it for both the development community and for those folks that are assessing the application. So, hip hip hooray! Glad to see it's coming. Let's get her done.
Thank you. Others? Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been talked about for a long time, and once it's incorporated in the official plan, it becomes law, so to speak, so that will be no confusion, and I'm sure will make things run much more smoothly as the East Fonthill development takes shape. So really good to see, and kudos to the idea, and looking forward to seeing this come forward.
Thank you. Others? Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. And we look forward to those meetings. You'll be publicizing that, and we'll look forward to the public input and developer input as well. The next item has been moved by Councillor Junkin, second by Councillor Durley, that pursuant to Section 8(4) of the Drainage Act, Council for the Town of Pelham hereby appoints Neil Morris, P.Eng. of K Smart Associates Limited, for the purpose of preparing a drainage report for the affected lands pertaining to the proposed Balfour Street drain. Comments or questions? Councillor Junkin?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I thought that they've been walking the lands for the last month or a month anyway. So this hasn't, so what have they been doing if we haven't given them the contract to do this?
Mr. Mantle.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the drainage superintendent's handling this project right now, but I'm aware of this is just part of the formalities. They're laying the groundwork for it right now, going through the process of gathering information. I believe there's some other outstanding issues to deal with it from a legal perspective with that drain. But I think at this point, they prepare and then they'll do their survey, and then they prepare the drawings and move on from there.
Does that help you, Councillor, or do you look
Well, I
for
just
further
thought
clarity?
that it seems like we're just asking to hire them now, but obviously we must have hired them already.
Mr. Mantle?
That's correct. They've been hired. I think this is just, again, tying up the loose ends and the formalities to ensure that it complies with the Drainage Act.
Okay.
Because they have to be appointed formally by
Okay.
bylaw.
All right. Thank you. Councillor? Ready for calling the question? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Mantle, just quickly, the work plan on that?
I'm not aware. I'd have to check with the drainage superintendent on that.
Sure. We look forward to it in some of our COW reports in February, perhaps. Thank you. The next item has been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor King, that Council of the Town of Pelham, having given due consideration to the following bylaw, do now read a first, second, and third time and do pass the same, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and seal the bylaws. There are two. One, being a bylaw to provide for the licensing of marriages, and two, being a bylaw to confirm various appointments to boards, commissions, and committees of the town of Pelham. Questions, comments? Thought it was cute that the paper said that we're now ready to say "I do." So are we ready to say "I do"? All those in favor of "I do"? Motion carried. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for initiating that. The next item, it's been moved by, there are no in-camera items, so it's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey. The following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and passed, being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of council of the town of Pelham and its regular meeting held today. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. And it's been moved by Councillor Kersey, seconded by Councillor Junkin. This regular meeting of council be adjourned until the next regular meeting, scheduled for Monday, February 2nd, 2015, unless sooner called by the mayor. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. This meeting is adjourned. I presume council will want to move directly into P&P. And we just have to do a quick switcheroo of chairs.